Chapter 3964. The peak of the dark pit demon mountain suddenly fell into silence. Only Yinjiling occasionally roared. The other 8 people looked at each other and saw a strong murderous intent in each other's eyes. If they wanted to leave alive, they had to get rid of the others. Interesting, really interesting. It's so interesting to be able to get rid of so many geniuses at once. I will use you as my stepping stone to break through to the godly emperor realm. Battle God Yuanwen grinned, and his eyes were full of fighting spirit. At this time he was still fighting like a madman. His aura seemed to have reached a critical point. Lu Ming's aura was also extremely powerful and had reached a peak. However, no one made the first move. They were all on guard against each other, waiting for the others to make the first move, so that they could reap the benefits. The scene was in a stalemate. Roar. At this time, Yinjiling roared again and jumped into the pit, as if something in the pit was attracting him. However, when he jumped into the pit, there was another powerful aura that rushed out of the pit and forced Yinjiling out. This madman, I suggest that we make a move first and get rid of Yinjiling so that he won't cause any more trouble. What do you think? The young man from the Shura clan said. This person was called Xiao Mayun, and he had been eyeing Yinjiling since the beginning. Among the 9 people present, Lu Ming and Battle God Yuanwen were undoubtedly the strongest at the same level, but their cultivation was only at the quasi-emperor realm, so they were not the biggest threat to him. The biggest threat to him was Yinjiling. After all, Yinjiling was a candidate for the Universe Prodigy list. He was extremely powerful, and was one of the top geniuses in the universe. His current cultivation was suppressed to the first godly emperor realm, just like him. He had no confidence to fight against Yinjiling, so he had to get rid of Yinjiling first. On the side, the others were also tempted. Their thoughts were similar to Xiao Mayun's. Kill. Xiao Mayun took the lead and condensed a Shura sword with his divine power. It broke through the void and slashed at Yinjiling. Roar. Yinjiling saw someone attacking him and roared, revealing a ferocious murderous intent. He pounced at Xiao Mayun with his sharp claws. Evil Yin Qi filled the air. Clang. Clang. The sound of metal colliding rang out continuously. The 2 of them had exchanged more than 10 moves in an instant. Then a figure retreated, covered in blood. It was Xiao Mayun. After exchanging a few blows he was injured. This made him extremely shocked. Yinjiling's strength was much stronger than he had imagined. Roar. Yinjiling roared and continued to attack Xiao Moyun. What are you waiting for? Xiao Mayun roared. However, none of the people on the side made a move. They all looked on coldly. It wouldn't be too late to let Yinjiling deal with Xiao Mayun first. Moreover, Xiao Mayun could consume a portion of Yinjiling's strength. Then, they would deal with Yinjiling. In this way, he could deal with the Xiao Moyun and Yinjiling at the same time. Of those who could make it this far, which one of them was simple? Xiao Mayun wanted to use the others to deal with Yinjiling first, but the others directly used him. All of you deserve to die. Xiao Mayun instantly guessed the thoughts of others and roared. But Yinjiling had already attacked him, so he could only do his best to resist. However, Yinjiling was too strong. He was originally a candidate of the Universe Prodigy list. After being possessed by the evil Yin energy, his battle strength became even stronger, and his attacks were crazily aggressive. Although Xiao Mayun was also a peerless monster, he wasn't qualified to be a candidate of the Universe Prodigy list. In a battle of the same level, his battle strength was weaker than Yinjiling's. He was completely at a disadvantage and was suppressed by Yinjiling. After more than 10 moves, Xiao Mayun was almost beheaded by Yinjiling. Although he narrowly avoided it, he was still seriously injured. Damn it, all of you deserve to die. Then die together. Xiao Mayun knew that he couldn't escape, so he roared crazily. His body swelled rapidly, and he was about to self-destruct. However, Yinjiling didn't seem to know, and continued to rush over. His sharp claws pierced through Xiao Mayun's head. Boom. At this moment, Xiao Mayun's body suddenly exploded, and a terrifying force swept in all directions. However, Lu Ming, Battle God Yuanwen, and the others were already prepared. They had already retreated to the edge of the Qingcheng domain, and set up layers of defense in front of them, blocking the power of Xiao Moyun's self-destruction. Yinjiling was at the center of Xiao Moyun's self-destruction, so he suffered the most intense destructive impact. Peng. Yin Jiuling's figure retreated rapidly, and there were many hideous wounds on his body, and black blood flowed out. However, in the pit, Yin Qi was constantly attracted by Yin Jiuling, and it poured into his body. His wounds were quickly healing. The others' faces became solemn. This Yin Jiuling is not right. Could it be that he has gone mad? It's more terrifying than I imagined. Let's attack together and get rid of him first. It's best to attack together. The remaining few people were transmitting their voices to each other. The next moment, among the remaining 5 people, 4 rushed out at the same time and attacked Yin Jiuling. There was still one person who didn't attack. Lu Ming and Battle God Yuan didn't attack either. However, when the 4 experts joined forces, their power was extremely shocking. Because each of these people was a peerless genius, and each of them had the combat strength of a divine emperor realm expert. Roar. Yin Jiuling roared and pounced on the 4 people. The 2 sides started a fierce battle. The 4 experts joined forces to fight Yin Jiuling, and Yin Jiuling suddenly fell into a disadvantage. He was hit continuously, and there were several wounds on his body. Yin Jiuling was injured by Xiao Moyun's self-destruction, and his combat strength wasn't at its peak. When the 4 experts saw that Yin Jiuling was injured, their attacks became more violent. At the same time, they were transmitting their voices to each other. Those 3 guys don't attack. Very well, after we kill Yin Jiuling, we will kill them, and then the 4 of us will fight to determine the winner. What do you think? Okay, it depends on who can go out in the end. The 4 discussed secretly, and their attacks were fierce. For a time, Yin Jiuling was in danger, and there were more and more wounds on his body. Lu Ming's eyes flickered, and he was considering whether to attack. Because the ancient secret skill left by the Bone Demon was with Yin Jiuling, and he had to get it. But in the end, Lu Ming still didn't attack. The current situation was very complicated, and it was better to preserve a little bit of strength. After more than 10 moves, Yin Jiuling's situation became more critical. His body was tattered, and it seemed that he was going to die at any time. Rumble. At this moment, there was a violent vibration from the bottom of the pit, and then, a strong Yin Qi rushed out of the pit. There were a few strands of Yin Qi in the Yin Qi. Chapter 3965. Among the Yin Qi, there were a few strands of Yin Qi. These strands of Yin Qi seemed to be alive, like small snakes that were swimming around. This was a Yin energy that possessed spirituality. Originally, the dark pit would spew out dark Yin Qi with spirituality. Previously, Battle God Yuan and the others had been guarding here, waiting for the dark Yin Qi to come out. At this moment, seeing the Yin Qi spurt out, the people present were not too surprised. At this moment, being alive was more important than anything else. Only a few of them dashed forward and grabbed at the murderous aura. They were Lu Ming, Battle God Yuan and Yin Jiuling. Yin Jiuling roared and rushed to the pit desperately. He opened his mouth and inhaled, and the Yin Qi rushed towards Yin Jiuling. Lu Ming and Battle God Yuan's face changed. Swish. Lu Ming condensed a huge hand with his taboo power. With a grab, he caught a wisp of Yin Qi with spirituality in his hand. Battle God Yuan shot out 2 beams of light from his eyes. These 2 beams of light were like 2 chains, entangling the Yin Qi and collecting it. 4 strands of spiritual Yin Qi were collected by Lu Ming and Battle God Yuan, and the remaining 2 strands were sucked into Yin Jiuling's mouth. However, Yin Jiuling absorbed the Yin Qi wholeheartedly, but ignored his own defense, and was bombarded by the attacks of the 4 masters. Bang! Yin Jiuling's body directly exploded into pieces. Only his head was left. It flew out and was wrapped in dense evil Yin Qi. At this moment, the Yin Qi that rushed out of the pit suddenly rolled back and fell back into the pit. Yin Jiuling's head took the opportunity to rush into the Yin Qi, and with the Yin Qi, it rushed into the pit and disappeared in front of everyone in the blink of an eye. The 4 masters looked at each other with a pale face. Yin Jiuling was forced to rush into the pit, and they didn't know whether he was dead or not. If it was someone else, they would be relieved because they would never return after rushing into the pit. But Yin Jiuling had rushed down once before, but he came out safe and sound, so they were not confident. Who knew whether Yin Jiuling was dead or not? Forget it, Let's get rid of these 3 people first. Yes, Injiling only has 1 head left, and he is seriously injured. He probably won't survive. Let's get rid of them first, and then we will decide the winner. The 4 masters transmitted their voices to each other, and they glanced at Lu Ming, Battle God Yuan 1, and another middle-aged man. Let's join forces. The middle-aged man's face changed wildly and he quickly said. The reason why he didn't make a move before was that he wanted to sit on top of the mountain and watch the tigers fight, because he always felt that Injiling was very strange, and wouldn't be killed so easily. He didn't expect that Injiling would be killed so easily. At this time, when he saw the 4 masters looking at them, he was shocked. It's too late. I'll send you to hell. 2 of the experts charged toward the middle-aged man while the other 2 charged toward Lu Ming and Battle God Yuanwen in a flash. One of them. They were confident enough. Although Lu Ming and Battle God Yuanwen were strong, they were all at the Divine Emperor realm. They could deal with Lu Ming and Battle God Yuanwen. Kill. Let's fight. Lu Ming and Battle God Yuanwen were fearless, and they roared and attacked. 1 of them against 1. The 2 sides collided in an instant, and they continued to attack each other. In the blink of an eye, they had exchanged more than 10 moves. However, their opponents were indeed powerful. Although they were suppressed to the 1st Godly Emperor layer, they were still able to kill cultivators of the 4th Godly Emperor layer. Although Lu Ming tried his best, he was still at a disadvantage, and he retreated quickly. On the other side, Battle God Yuanwen also retreated quickly, and he was also at a disadvantage. Sure enough, those who could step on the Dark Pit Demon Mountain weren't simple. They weren't much weaker than Injiling. As soon as Lu Ming retreated, the other party chased after him and continued to attack him. Explode! Lu Ming shouted, and his whole body glowed. All the secret techniques turned into dazzling brilliance, covering Lu Ming's body. At the same time, the battle character formula increased his fighting strength by 6 times, and the Great Holy Wind technique and Great Shattering technique were activated to the extreme. Boom! 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 Both sides exchanged more than 10 moves, and Lu Ming's chest was pierced by a sword chi. He coughed up blood and retreated. However, despite being injured, Lu Ming's eyes were still bright, and he had a firm and unyielding belief. There was only motivation when there was pressure. There was a sense of crisis, and there was more motivation. At this moment, he could not use his trump card, and even Qiu could not move. He could only rely on himself. Lu Ming was excited because the opportunity to break through was getting more and more obvious. Previously, when he fought with Battle God Yuanwen, he felt the opportunity to break through. He felt that he was only a step away from breaking through. At this moment, facing the crisis, this feeling was even stronger. Fight, fight. Let's fight to our heart's content. Come on. You don't seem to have any strength. Ha ha ha. On the other side, Battle God Yuanwen also laughed, without a trace of fear. Instead, he was more excited. He also felt the opportunity to break through. At this moment, a shrill scream was heard. The middle-aged man, besieged by the 2 experts, screamed and died on the spot. After killing the middle-aged man, the 2 experts also pounced on Lu Ming and Battle God Yuanwen. In this way, it became 2 against 1. Originally, Lu Ming was facing 1 of them, and facing 2 of them was even more dangerous. Puff! Lu Ming's heart was pierced by a sword chi. Then a terrifying fist force hit his abdomen. Lu Ming flew out, vomiting blood, and his body almost exploded. However, the potential stored in Lu Ming's cells gushed out crazily, and his injury was quickly healing. Soon, just a little bit more. Lu Ming's eyes were bright, and he was a little excited. In the face of a life and death crisis, his potential was stimulated to the extreme. Kill! Lu Ming shouted and took the initiative to attack the 2 experts. Bang! 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 After a series of collisions, Lu Ming was injured again, and was forced to retreat. Let's kill him in one go. Kill! After injuring Lu Ming, the 2 experts unleashed their ultimate moves and attacked Lu Ming, wanting to kill Lu Ming completely. But at this moment, boom! A violent aura rushed out of Lu Ming's body, like a volcanic eruption, bringing with it a violent burst of energy. Breakthrough. At this moment, Lu Ming finally broke through and stepped into the Divine Emperor realm. At the moment of breaking through to the Divine Emperor realm, the potential stored in Lu Ming's cells was stimulated to the extreme, and all of it was transformed into Lu Ming's cultivation. Hungry. In an instant, Lu Ming was engulfed by endless hunger, as if he had not eaten for 100,000 years. Incomparable hunger was revealed in every cell. Let me absorb it. With a thought in Lu Ming's mind, piles of elven tree heart flew out, and the surging life essence madly converged towards Lu Ming. Chapter 3966. A large pile of elven wood hearts turned into surging waves of life essence and converged towards Lu Ming. Every cell in Lu Ming's body was crazily devouring and absorbing the life essence. Satisfaction. A sense of satisfaction spread throughout his body. Breakthrough. The two experts besieging Lu Ming were shocked. They did not expect that Lu Ming could break through under their joint attack. What kind of monster was he? Kill, we can't let him break through. One of them roared. Together with the other, they charged toward Lu Ming in a frenzy. When Lu Ming was still a quasi-emperor, his combat strength was already so terrifying. Once he broke through to the Divine Emperor realm, his combat strength would soar, and he would definitely be far above them. They must not let Lu Ming break through. Once Lu Ming broke through, they would be the ones to die. The two experts exerted their full strength and launched two incomparably sharp and terrifying attacks towards Lu Ming's head. Kill! Lu Ming suddenly shouted, and violent energy swept out from his body, forming a terrifying shockwave. The two experts were hit by the shockwave and their bodies shook violently as they retreated. Lu Ming seized the opportunity and continued to devour the life essence of the elven wood hearts crazily. Break for me! On the other side, Battle God Yuanwen also roared, and a terrifying aura burst out from his body. Breakthrough. Battle God Yuanwen also broke through at the critical moment under the joint attack of the two experts. Dazzling gems appeared on his body. These gems weren't divine gems. They were precious gems that contained rich and pure energy. These energies were like a great river that rushed into the Battle God Yuanwen's mouth. The two experts were also shocked and wanted to attack Battle God Yuanwen, but they were also repelled by him. Lu Ming and Battle God Yuanwen broke through the shackles and entered the Divine Emperor realm one after another. Their aura became more and more terrifying. As for the four experts, their expressions were extremely ugly. Everyone, we have to go all out. If we don't, we'll be the ones to die. Go all out, kill. Burn. The four experts revealed a frenzied look. The divine power in their bodies burned like flames. They went all out. Regardless of the consequences, they burned their divine power and origin and charged toward Lu Ming and the Battle God Yuanwen. They had to kill the two of them. At this moment, they were filled with regret. If they had known earlier, they would have killed Lu Ming and the Battle God Yuanwen from the very beginning. Previously, the two of them were only quasi-emperors. Although they were excessively monstrous, they did not take them to heart. They were fully confident that they could suppress Lu Ming. Who would have thought that the two of them could break through to the Divine Emperor realm in the middle of the battle? Now the ones who will die are you. Lu Ming's eyes emitted an incomparably resplendent multicolored light. His entire body was shrouded in a fierce wind. Instead of retreating, he advanced and attacked the two experts. His palm was like a blade, shattering the void as he attacked continuously. Boom, boom. Lu Ming and the two experts exchanged blows, causing two violent explosions. Then two muffled groans could be heard. The two experts were pushed back violently as blood spurted out from their bodies. Cracks appeared on their bodies, caused by the great shattering art. Blood flowed out from the cracks. After breaking through to the Divine Emperor realm, whether it was the Great Divine Wind technique or the Great Shattering Art, their power had increased tremendously. Moreover, Lu Ming had just broken through and had yet to gain a firm foothold in the Divine Emperor realm. Otherwise, he would have killed the two experts with that move. After all, the gap between the quasi-emperors and the divine emperors was huge. Once a breakthrough was made, one's combat strength would increase tremendously. Even so, Lu Ming's combat strength was above the two experts. Fight, fight, fight! On the other side, the Battle God Yuanwen roared madly. His combat strength was unparalleled, causing the other two experts to vomit blood. How could this be? The four experts all revealed a panic-stricken expression. They were all geniuses of their generation, and their future was limitless. They did not want to die here. Looking at Lu Ming's cold eyes, they felt chills all over their bodies. "Brother, why don't you spare our lives? We can cooperate and leave this place together." One of the young men shouted at Lu Ming and begged for mercy. "Hee." Lu Ming replied with a cold smile. They wanted to kill him when they had the upper hand. Now that they were no match for him, they wanted to cooperate. How could that be possible? Lu Ming was not an easy person to talk to. Lu Ming took a step forward and continued to force his way toward the two experts. "It's not that easy to kill us. You'll have to pay the price too. Let's fight." The two experts saw that Lu Ming was not going to let them go. They looked ferocious and went all out to attack Lu Ming. However, no matter how hard they tried, their cultivation was suppressed to the first divine emperor realm. They were at the same level as Lu Ming. Even though Lu Ming had just broken through, they were still far from him. After a few attacks, their bodies were almost torn apart. A dozen of their bones were broken. "Ah, let's die together." One of them went crazy. His body swelled up as if he was going to explode. Lu Ming quickly retreated. Boom. A terrifying explosion sounded as the man exploded. A terrifying strength swept in all directions. The destructive strength was not only aimed at Lu Ming, but also at the others, including the battle god Yuan and the other two experts. The explosion of such an expert was indeed terrifying. Lu Ming had retreated in time, but he was still injured. His chest and abdomen were in tatters and many of his bones were broken. However, those injuries were nothing to Lu Ming. He was recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. On the other hand, the expert who besieged Lu Ming together with this person was not so lucky. He was directly engulfed by the destructive power, and was blasted into smithereens. At the same time, the two experts who were fighting against the battle god Yuan were slightly further away, so they were less affected. However, they were also seriously injured. The battle god Yuan was also injured, but his injuries were much lighter. Battle 18 strikes. The battle god Yuan did not care about his injuries at all. As soon as he retreated, he attacked again. His fingers were like swords as he attacked continuously. Poof. The two experts were already seriously injured and dispirited. At that moment, they could not block the attacks of the battle god Yuan. They were directly killed by the battle god Yuan. Now only Lu Ming and the battle god Yuan were left on the peak of the dark pit demon mountain. Ha ha ha. In the end, only the two of us are left. Just nice. I can use you as a stepping stone to become an invincible king and break through the king realm. The battle god Yuan looked at Lu Ming. His battle intent was burning fiercely. At the same time, he was still absorbing the energy of the crystals to stabilize his divine emperor realm cultivation. Of course, Lu Ming was also absorbing the life essence of the elven wood heart to stabilize his cultivation. Chapter 3967. Your words are exactly what I want to say. You are a rare opponent. I will go all out to make my name as invincible. Lu Ming said. Ha ha ha, you have confidence and strength. I like it. Since you are about to die in my hands, I still don't know your name. I want to see when someone like you appeared in the universe. Battle god Yuan said. To be honest, he had some sympathy for Lu Ming. At his level, it was too difficult to find a real opponent. Mu Yun. Lu Ming pondered for a moment and said the name Mu Yun. Mu Yun? Battle god Yuan revealed a thoughtful look and then said. Not long ago, the person who was in an uproar with the elf princess Ling Yue was also called Mu Yun. Could it be you? That's right. Lu Ming nodded. So it's you. It seems that everyone has underestimated you. Battle god Yuan said. After saying this, the two fell into silence. However, their auras became stronger and stronger. Like waves, they met in the middle and collided fiercely. Boom. The collision of auras was like a stormy sea. In the next moment, two figures rushed towards each other. The two peerless monsters once again fought together, pushing their combat strength to the peak. Battle 18 strikes. Great God Wind technique, great shattering technique. Terrifying killing moves collided in the void. In an instant, the two had exchanged dozens of moves. After dozens of moves, the two retreated at the same time and stood on both sides of the pit, facing each other from a distance. The battle just now was still undecided. I really want to know what kind of power you control to be able to compete with my Battle Saint force? Battle God Yuanwen said, very curious. As long as you can defeat me, I will naturally tell you, Lu Ming said. Very well, my curiosity will soon be realized. Battle God Yuanwen was still very confident. For example, geniuses like Lu Ming and Battle God Yuanwen had almost swept away all their opponents along the way. They had never met a worthy opponent at the same level, and had developed the belief of being invincible. Even if they met an opponent now, they still had the belief of being invincible and believed that they could defeat their opponent. Their auras burst forth, and they were about to fight again. But at this moment, there was another change in the pit. With a loud explosion, a gust of yin qi rushed out. Along with this wave of yin qi, a figure rushed out. This figure was actually Yin Jiuling. Previously, Yin Jiuling only had his head left and rushed into the pit. But now he had recovered and his body was intact. Furthermore, his aura was extremely terrifying. His entire body was covered in a dense murderous aura. It was possible to see the murderous aura slithering in and out of his mouth and nose like tiny snakes. His appearance was extremely strange. Kill. Yin Jiuling landed next to the sinkhole and immediately let out a roar. He clapped his palms consecutively and a strong evil aura rushed out of his palms, turning into two pitch-black pythons that bit toward Lu Ming and Fighting God Yuanwen respectively. The yin qi whistled, bringing with it a terrifying might, giving Lu Ming a sense of crisis. Boom. Lu Ming's palm was like a knife, slashing with all his strength. It collided with the python's head, and there was a violent explosion. Suddenly, Lu Ming felt a cold and terrifying force rushing towards Lu Ming. Even the forbidden force could not completely block it. Lu Ming's body retreated rapidly. A layer of black qi appeared on the surface of his body. This time, the black qi was extremely strange, as if it was going to corrode Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming's body shook and the forbidden force in his cells burst out, shaking off the black qi. On the other side, Battle God Yuanwen was not much better. He was also repelled by the python. No, Yin Jiuling's state is not right, Battle God Yuanwen shouted. He also found that Battle God Yuanwen's state was extremely strange, as if he was possessed by the devil. Moreover, in the King realm, their cultivation was suppressed to the first divine emperor layer. However, Yin Jiuling was extremely terrifying. He repelled Lu Ming and Battle God Yuanwen with one move. Was Yin Jiuling so strong? Impossible. In the entire primitive universe, no one at the same level could defeat the two of them in one move. He is no longer Yin Jiuling. He has been possessed by the evil Yin Qi, Lu Ming said. He has been possessed by the evil Yin Qi with spiritual intelligence? Is there such a thing? No wonder he could come out alive after entering the sewer. Battle God Yuanwen suddenly realized. Yin Jiuling was no longer an ordinary creature. It could be said that he had evil Yin Qi, so he could come out alive from the sewer. They die. While Lu Ming and Battle God Yuanwen were talking, Yin Jiuling roared and launched an attack on Lu Ming and Battle God Yuanwen. Yin Jiuling had swallowed a lot of evil Yin Qi in the sewer. Even if his cultivation was suppressed to the first divine emperor layer, he was still very terrifying. With a wave of his hand, the sky was full of evil Yin Qi. The dense evil Yin Qi between heaven and earth was also driven and turned into a terrifying attack, attacking Battle God Yuanwen. He's mine! Battle God Yuanwen shouted. His body was shrouded in purple divine light as he attacked Yin Jiuling. He used his divine power to condense a purple halberd, and used the halberd to perform the War 18 strikes, launching a fierce attack. The Battle 18 strikes of the Battle Saint tribe was an extremely terrifying secret technique. It could perfectly combine with the bloodline of the Battle Saint tribe, the Battle Saint body and the Battle Saint force of the Battle Saint tribe. It was very mysterious and there was no fixed technique. Every member of the Battle Saint tribe could practice it, but what they comprehended was different and the power was also very different. The Battle 18 strikes of the Battle God Yuanwen was undoubtedly very powerful. When the halberd struck down, heaven and earth trembled. Yin Jiuling is my prey. I came here because I was chasing him. Lu Ming also shouted coldly. He jumped up and attacked Yin Juling. All kinds of secret runes in his cells shone and turned into a dazzling light, forming a mysterious attack power that crushed Yin Juling. Boom. Boom. The three experts started a peak battle. In the battle domain, terrifying rumbling sounds could be heard. Fortunately, this scene was isolated by the Battle King domain. Otherwise, it would definitely shake the entire universe. At this moment, Yin Juling was so terrifying that it was a little strange. Lu Ming and Battle God Yuanwen joined forces, but they could only suppress him by a little. If they were alone, they might not be his opponent. What exactly is this baleful Yin Qi that has its own consciousness? It's just a possession. How can it be so terrifying? Lu Ming secretly asked Bone Demon. He was really shocked. It was just a wisp of baleful Yin Qi that had its own consciousness, but it actually made Yin Juling so terrifying that he could fight against his taboo force and the battle saint force of Battle God Yuanwen. It didn't make sense. Moreover, Lu Ming also thought of another problem. The Heavenly Palace asked everyone to collect the baleful Yin Qi to register. They definitely had to collect the baleful Yin Qi. This showed that the baleful Yin Qi was somewhat extraordinary. Chapter 3968. Even the Heavenly Palace was collecting Yin Qi with spirituality. What was the secret behind this? You're right. Once the Yin Qi has spirituality, it's very extraordinary. It's very likely that it's related to a terrifying place? Guemo said. What terrifying place? Lu Ming asked. Dark Universe. Guemo said. Dark Universe? What's that? Lu Ming was curious. He had never heard of a dark universe. As for what it is, you will definitely know when you become a heavenly soldier. You will most likely come into contact with it personally. Even if I explain it now, you won't understand. Guemo said. Lu Ming could only suppress the curiosity in his heart and continue to fight with Yin Juling. The three of them fought fiercely. However, Lu Ming and Battle God Yuanwen teamed up and eventually gained the upper hand and slowly suppressed Yin Juling. Boom. After hundreds of moves, Lu Ming hit Yin Juling's head. Bang. A large part of Yin Juling's head exploded and was full of cracks. However, with the Yin Qi running, Yin Juling's head was quickly healing. However, there was still a bone bead that flew out from the place where it exploded. This was the bone bead left by Guemo, which sealed the ancient secret technique and other demon secret techniques. Previously, Guemo had sensed that the bone bead was in Yin Juling's left head. Therefore, Lu Ming specifically targeted Yin Juling's head. After hundreds of moves, Lu Ming finally seized the opportunity and blasted the bone bead out. The bone bead flew out and was caught by Lu Ming. Finally got it. Lu Ming showed a hint of joy and kept the bone bead in his storage ring. Roar. Yin Juling let out an angry roar. The Yin Qi around the pit was controlled by him and rushed toward Lu Ming and Battle God Yuanwen like waves. The reason why Yin Juling was so strong was related to the environment here. Around the Dark Pit Demon Mountain, especially the peak of the Dark Pit Demon Mountain, the Yin Qi was too strong. Yin Juling was like a fish in water here, and could exert 120% of his strength. Boom. Boom. Lu Ming and Battle God Yuanwen unleashed their killer moves, breaking through the layers of Yin Qi and attacking Yin Juling. The three of them started fighting again. The battle between the three grew more intense. In the blink of an eye, another 200 moves had been exchanged. At this point in the battle, the three of them were all covered in blood, all of them injured. Purple blood, bright red blood, pitch black blood. 3 types of blood spilled out. The 3 strongest demonic geniuses fought each other crazily. Boundless energy had already accumulated in this region. Wang. All of a sudden, the Qingqing domain around the ditch shook violently. Outside around Demon Mountain, many living beings who were watching suddenly became excited. The King realm is about to break. The cruel battle inside is about to end. Who will be able to come out alive? Is it the prodigy of the Azura clan or Yin Juling? Or is it the Battle God Yuanwen and that mysterious demon? I don't know what kind of cultivation level will be suppressed in the king's domain. If it's suppressed to the godly emperor layer, then the Battle God Yuanwen and that mysterious genius will die. If that's really the case, then it's a pity. Those 2 peerless geniuses. The scene was filled with discussions. Many people were broadcasting the battle to the entire universe through the illusory divine jade. Countless people were watching the purple and red King Chung domain nervously. Many of the major clans were extremely nervous, because they had demonic geniuses inside. If they couldn't come out alive, it would be a great loss. Especially the Battle Saint tribe, they were the most nervous. The Battle God Yuan Wen's talent was too high. Even in the vast history of the Battle Saint tribe, he was one of the top geniuses. Once he reached the major success stage in the future, he would become a terrifying overlord of the universe, a character that could suppress an era. The strength of the Battle Saint tribe would also become stronger, suppressing the other top 10 tribes. If such a character died inside, it would be a pity. It would be an inestimable loss. Many of the major figures of the Battle Saint tribe were staring at the King Chung domain through the illusory divine jade. The Sun Moon clan, Azura clan and other clans were also doing the same. Wang. The King Chung domain vibrated more and more violently. Suddenly, with a loud boom, it exploded, turning into a rain of light and dissipating. When the King domain exploded, 3 figures flew out and continuously exchanged blows in the air. Boundless energy swept out in all directions, creating a terrifying scene. Someone is fighting. 3 people. Why are there 3 people? Didn't they say that only the strongest King Realm cultivators could come out? The scene was in an uproar. Even the ancient existence of the Buddha clan was stunned. Obviously, he didn't expect such a situation. Generally speaking, only the strongest King Realm cultivator could escape from the King Chung domain and become an invincible king. Why are there 3 people coming out now? Who are they? Many people stared at them. Slowly, the rain of light dissipated and they found out who the 3 people were. It's the Battle God Yuan One and Yin Jiuling. The third one is that mysterious demonic genius. What a terrifying aura. The aura of the Battle God Yuan One and the mysterious demonic genius have both reached the Divine Emperor realm. They broke through in such a short time. What's even more astonishing is that they joined hands to fight against Yin Jiuling. How can Yin Jiuling be so terrifying? When the 3 people were discovered, the entire universe was astonished. First of all, the Battle God Yuan One and Lu Ming had broken through. Then, the 2 of them joined hands to fight against Yin Jiuling. That was even more astonishing. How could Yin Jiuling be so strong? Damn it! Damn it! Shouted the strong cultivators of the Azura clan and the other clans. Their geniuses hadn't come out yet, so they must have died. Boom! At this moment, the aura on Yin Jiuling's body suddenly became violent and rose rapidly. Without the suppression of the King Chung domain, his cultivation level was recovering. First Godly Emperor layer, second Godly Emperor layer, third Godly Emperor layer, fourth Godly Emperor layer. In a flash, Yin Jiuling's cultivation level rose to the fourth Godly Emperor layer. Before, when the King Chung domain had just formed, Yin Jiuling's cultivation level had only reached the third Godly Emperor layer. Now he had broken through to the third Godly Emperor layer. That kind of breakthrough speed was earth-shattering. After recovering his cultivation level, Yin Jiuling's fighting strength had reached the peak. Die! Shouted Yin Jiuling. He wanted to kill Lu Ming and the Battle God Yuan One in one fell swoop. Without the King Chung domain you'll die, shouted the Battle God Yuan One. A purple golden halberd appeared in his hand. One could see that the end of the battle halberd was missing a corner. However, a terrifying aura erupted from the battle halberd. The violent aura directly split apart the Battle God Yuan One's shockwave that was rushing over. That was the trump card of the Battle God Yuan One. It was also his trump card. Whoosh! The purple golden halberd turned into a huge mountain and slashed towards Yin Jiuling. At the same time, Lu Ming took out the Zephyr bead. A scorching tornado swept towards Yin Jiuling. Chapter 3969. Lu Ming and Battle God Yuan Wen used their weapons at the same time. The terrifying power of the 2 weapons instantly shrouded Yin Jiuling. Yin Jiuling roared and unleashed his full strength. Evil Yin Qi soared to the sky and fought against the 2 weapons. However, after Lu Ming and the Battle God Yuan Wen reached the Divine Emperor realm, the power that they could unleash when controlling the big killing weapon was stronger. After a series of collisions, Yin Jiuling's protective Yin Qi was forcibly broken. His body was cut by the strong wind, and was almost cut in half by the purple-golden halberd. Yin Jiuling's body was blasted back. Roar! Yin Jiuling roared angrily. The rich sinister aura in the pit converged toward him. His injuries were recovering rapidly. He kept roaring and his eyes were filled with murderous intent. He kept glancing at Lu Ming and the battle god Yuanwen with his tyrannical eyes. You too die. Yin Jiuling roared intermittently. Then he turned around and left, turning into a stream of yin qi. In a flash, the space was broken, and he disappeared in a blink of an eye. His speed was amazing. After all, Lu Ming and the battle god Yuanwen's cultivation were only at the first level of the Divine Emperor realm. They could only injure Yin Jiuling by relying on the big killer weapon. However, in terms of speed, they were far inferior. They could only watch Yin Jiuling escape. Wait until my cultivation improves, then I will kill you with one hand, battle god Yuanwen said disdainfully. Then he looked at Lu Ming with a strong battle intent. Mu Yun, you changed your appearance because you don't want others to know. I won't tell anyone, but our battle is not over yet. We will fight next time. Battle god Yuanwen transmitted his voice to Lu Ming. Then he turned around and went down the dark pit demon mountain. He had already obtained a wisp of evil yin qi, so he didn't need to stay here. Lu Ming smiled and didn't care. Why would he be afraid of others' challenge? To be honest, battle god Yuanwen was a very good opponent. Lu Ming had never met such an opponent. Having an opponent was a kind of pressure, and also a kind of motivation that could promote him to keep moving forward. If you want to fight, I am always ready, Lu Ming replied with a voice transmission, and then went down the mountain from another direction. The purpose of this trip was finally completed. The ancient secret skill left by the bone demon, and a wisp of evil yin qi with spirituality. Although the process was quite tortuous, it was a complete success. The next step was to go to the City of Heaven, where the dreamy heavenly palace was located. The dreamy heavenly palace was the real core of the dreamy heavenly palace. It was difficult for outsiders to go there. The Dream Sky City was an incomparably majestic and boundless ancient city. It was suspended in the starry sky of the universe, with the sun, moon, and stars revolving around it. One could see how huge it was. Lu Ming spent several months before he arrived at the Dream Sky City. He could not help marveling at the ancient city from afar. The dreamy heavenly palace was surrounded by the sun, moon, and stars. These sun, moon, and stars actually formed a formation. Once it was attacked, the astral formation would activate and unleash a devastating attack. In addition, the dreamy heavenly palace was shrouded in layers of multicolored light, which looked like a dream. There was only one gate in the dreamy heavenly palace. Lu Ming flew toward the gate. In front of the gate, there was a 300 million mile long avenue that extended all the way to the gate. From afar, one could see countless creatures walking on the avenue. Most of these creatures were in human form, but there were also many who revealed their true form. Some were as small as ants, and some were as big as mountains. Fortunately, the avenue was big enough to accommodate these creatures no matter how big they were. It's really spectacular, Lu Ming exclaimed. When he approached the path, he felt a strong pressure acting on his body. In the dreamy heavenly palace, one couldn't fly, so Lu Ming could only land on the avenue and walk into the dreamy heavenly palace. If it was an ordinary person, they wouldn't be able to walk 300 million miles even if they walked for a lifetime. Of course, they weren't ordinary people. Lu Ming took a step forward and moved 100 miles away. His figure was like a ray of light as he walked toward the gate. In fact, the others seemed to be walking, but their speed wasn't slow at all. Therefore, it looked normal. Even so, Lu Ming walked for a full day before he walked through the avenue and entered the city gate. Behind the city gate, there wasn't any avenue, but a huge platform. The platform was very high, and standing on the platform, one could see the bustling streets and various ancient buildings in the distance. Come, the dreams sail to the Aquamoon Heavenly Palace. Only 10 Emperor-level divine pills per person. Go to the dream sale to the number 1 auction house in Sky City. 15 Emperor-level divine pills per person. Those who want to register for the Heavenly Soldier competition, go to the registration area. 10 Emperor-level divine pills per person. As soon as Lu Ming stepped onto the platform, he heard shouts and shouts. It turned out that on the platform, there were sailboats floating in the air. So we need to ride these sailboats. Lu Ming was enlightened. Indeed, the Dream Sky City was too big, and one couldn't fly. It would take a long time to go from one place to another, no matter how fast one was. And this kind of dream sail could fly at an extremely fast speed. Therefore, most people would ride this kind of dream sail. However, the price was too expensive, starting from Emperor-level divine pills. Emperor-level divine pellets were useful for divine emperors. Moreover, there were 10 of them at once. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to afford it. But here, one had to ride it even if they didn't want to. If they walked, they would die. Lu Ming stepped forward and came under one of the dream sails. The dream sail was very big, at least 10,000 people could ride it at once. Brother, you're too big. Can you please shrink a little? Under the dream sail, a bearded man said to an elephant whose body was as white as jade. This elephant was 10,000 zhang tall, so it was too big to fit into the dream sail. Okay. The white jade elephant nodded and shrunk into its human form. Then it handed over 10 emperor-level divine pills and boarded the dream sail. Little brother, 10 emperor-level divine pills. Go to the registration area of the heavenly soldier. Then the bearded middle-aged man stopped Lu Ming. Here. Lu Ming took out 10 emperor-level divine pills and gave them to the man. Lu Ming had killed many divine emperors, so he still had some emperor-level divine pills on him. Haha, please, I hope you pass the assessment and become a heavenly soldier. The burly man with a full beard smiled and let Lu Ming board the dream sail. After boarding the dream sail, Lu Ming found a place to sit down and closed his eyes to rest. Set sail. About 2 hours later, a shout came out, and the dream sail was covered with a layer of white light. With a swoosh, it rushed out, 100 times faster than walking. Chapter 3970. Lu Ming stood up and watched from the side of the dream sail. On the dream sail, the scenery of Dream Sky City was unobstructed. He could see that the streets below were crisscrossing, and it was very prosperous. No one was flying in the sky. There were only other dream sails sailing in the sky like giant birds, going back and forth to various parts of Dream Sky City. That's the angel race. And the one full of blood chi is the blood race. The Buddha race. Lu Ming swept his gaze across and saw various clans on the streets below. He even saw many of the top 10 clans. Dream Sky City was indeed the heavenly city of the Dream Sky Heavenly Palace. It gathered the elites of various races in the universe, and many of them permanently settled in Dream Sky City. On the dream sail, many people, like Lu Ming, had come to Dream Sky City for the first time. They stood on the dream sail and looked around curiously. The dream sail was very fast, but Dream Sky City was just too big. Even with the dream sail's speed, it still took an entire day to reach the registration area for the divine soldier. The registration place was in front of a majestic palace. At the moment, it was already crowded. There were no less than thousands of people. In front of the palace, there were 9 light doors. In front of the doors, some elites in armor were checking and registering. We've arrived at the registration place. You can disembark, the bearded man said. Everyone nodded and jumped down from the dream sail. They landed in front of the palace, then walked to the 9 light doors and began to line up. Lu Ming also walked to a light door and began to line up. At the same time, he looked around. A young man walked up to a few experts in armor and registered their names. Then he took out a storage ring. A strand of baleful yin chi flew out from the storage ring. It was a baleful yin chi that had its own spirituality. One of the armored experts nodded and put away the wisp of baleful yin chi. Then another person took out a jade tablet and handed it to the young man. Enter the light door and be tested, a burly man in armor said. These armored men were the heavenly soldiers of the heavenly palace. The young man seemed a little nervous and hesitant. In the end, he clenched his teeth and stepped into the glowing door. Wang. When this person walked into the door of light, the door of light suddenly emitted a dazzling light. How dare you? How dare you deceive the heavenly palace? You deserve death. A heavenly soldier shouted. His aura was wild and his killing intent was like a knife. I'm innocent. The baleful yin chi was indeed obtained by me. The young man's expression changed drastically as he roared. Presumptuous! How dare you quibble? These 9 light gates were created by the heavenly palace, who was proficient in the art of divination. As long as you step into the light gate, as long as you don't personally obtain the evil yin qi, the light gate can be divined. You've committed a crime upon a crime. A heavenly soldier shouted. Plop. The young man knelt down. His face was deathly pale as he shouted. Please spare my life. Master, please spare my life. I was confused for a moment. It's my first offense. Please spare my life. The heavenly palace has already informed us, but you still want to deceive the heavenly palace. Unforgivable, shouted the heavenly soldier coldly. Swish. When the young man saw that the heavenly soldier wasn't going to spare him, he turned into a beam of light and ran away. Without a doubt, this young man was also a top genius. He had already broken through to the 3rd godly emperor layer. He was extremely strong. He used his full strength and his speed was astonishing. You want to die? Said a middle-aged heavenly soldier coldly. He raised his spear and threw it at the young man. Whoosh! A spear silhouette streaked across the sky and moved as fast as lightning towards the young man. Shouted the young man furiously. He used all his strength to resist, but it was all in vain. His attacks and defenses couldn't withstand a single attack from the middle-aged heavenly soldier. Slash. The young man's head was pierced through and he died. Someone come and take him away, said the middle-aged heavenly soldier coldly. Someone immediately came and took the young man's corpse away. How strong! Many people were astonished. That middle-aged heavenly soldier looked ordinary, but he was terrifyingly strong. He was at least at the top of the godly emperor layer. I heard that when one first becomes a celestial soldier, the celestial palace will bestow rewards. Everyone will reap great benefits and their strength will soar. In addition, by participating in various missions in the celestial soldier, one can obtain large amounts of rewards and rapidly increase one's strength. Indeed, the heavenly palace has the best resources in the universe. No other clan can compete with them. I can't wait. Many people were astonished, but at the same time, they were whispering to each other. The heavenly palace had unimaginable resources. If you practiced in the heavenly palace, your cultivation would increase quickly. That was why so many geniuses wanted to join the heavenly palace and become heavenly soldiers. Even the top 10 clans had many geniuses who could become heavenly soldiers. That was because even the top 10 clans did not have as many resources as the heavenly palace. I'll say it one last time. If you didn't get the dark yin qi by yourself, but bought it, or given it by someone else, or even an elder, please leave now. The heavenly palace will not pursue the matter. However, if you're discovered after registration, you'll be sentenced to death, shouted the middle-aged heavenly soldier. Many people were astonished, but no one left. In fact, there were very few people who thought they were lucky. That was because history had already taught them a lesson. No one could deceive the heavenly palace. Those who thought they were lucky and tried to get away with it all ended up in a miserable state. Every time there were very few people who thought they were lucky. Most of the time, there was no one. This time, one of them was discovered. He was lucky. The registration process continued, and no one was found who tried to get away with it. Bone Demon, can that gate find out that I have a forbidden body? Lu Ming secretly asked Bone Demon. A forbidden body was a great enemy of the heavenly palace. If it was discovered, Lu Ming would be in trouble. To be honest, sneaking into the heavenly palace was like entering a tiger's den. Lu Ming was still a little nervous, although Fei Huang told him that it was fine. Don't worry. A forbidden body can't be seen on the surface. Even the forbidden power can't be seen. On the surface, it's no different from other divine powers. Only those who have come into contact with your taboo energy will be able to sense it. So don't worry, said Bone Demon. Lu Ming nodded and felt slightly relieved. Soon it was Lu Ming's turn. What's your name? Where are you from? Which force are you from? Asked a heavenly soldier. Mu Yun, from the Fengdu sword sect of the Iron Sea Star Zone, replied Lu Ming. He's Mu Yun? When the surrounding people heard Lu Ming's name, they were all shocked and looked at Lu Ming curiously. Because of Ling Yue, Lu Ming could be said to have become a famous person in the universe. Chapter 3971. Many people were secretly sizing up Lu Ming, especially some of the young geniuses. Their eyes were filled with intense hostility. Ling Yue was one of the 20 pearls of the universe and the princess of the elf clan. There were many people pursuing her, including countless divine emperor realm geniuses. And now, the relationship between Lu Ming and Ling Yue had been made public. Who knew how many people wanted to make a move against him? Lu Ming looked down, as if he didn't care. There was nothing he could do. Ever since he had Ling Yue as his fiancée, he had expected this to happen. However, Lu Ming had never been afraid of challenges from others. If he really couldn't avoid it, then so be it. He would just treat it as a form of training. However, the heavenly soldier was expressionless, as if he had never heard of Lu Ming's name. He took out a jade tablet and registered it. I hope the information you said is true. You should know that the Heavenly Palace will thoroughly investigate your background. The heavenly soldier reminded him. Of course. Lu Ming nodded. This was the reason why he joined the Fengdu sword sect. Where's the spiritual baleful Yin Qi? Take it out. Another heavenly soldier said. Lu Ming took out the baleful Yin Qi. The other party checked it for a moment and kept it. Then, the heavenly soldier from before handed the jade tablet to Lu Ming. Enter the gate of light. Only by passing through the gate of light can you proceed to the next round of the examination. The heavenly soldier said. Lu Ming took the jade token and stepped into the door of light. There was no reaction from the door of light. Since there was no reaction, he had passed. You've registered successfully. Come with me. Behind the gate of light, another heavenly soldier said to Lu Ming. Lu Ming nodded and followed the heavenly soldier into the palace. After passing through the palace, there was a huge plaza behind it. The plaza was huge. At this moment, there were already a lot of people in the plaza. You've only registered successfully. If you want to become a heavenly soldier, you still need to go through a few rounds of assessment. I don't know what the specific assessment is yet. Just wait here. When it's time for your assessment, someone will naturally call you. The heavenly soldier said. Thank you. Lu Ming cupped his fists. The celestial soldier nodded and left. Lu Ming found a random place to sit down and wait. Not long after, an old man in a snow-white robe and a jade crown flew over. The heavenly official is here. Looks like someone else has a mission. Someone whispered. Many people looked at the sky official. Every time the sky official came, he would announce a few people to take part in the examination. Not everyone would participate in the examination together. Furthermore, the contents of the examination would be different for many people. Meng Jia of the Iron Armor clan, Shen Fei of the Feiyuan clan. The 12 of you follow me to participate in the assessment. Sky official rode. Immediately, 12 people stepped forward. The majority of these 12 people were young, but there were also a few middle-aged burly men or old men. The sky official waved his hand, and a beam of light swept up the 12 people and left. In Dream Sky City, the heavenly officials and heavenly soldiers were naturally able to fly. If they couldn't fly, how could they carry out their mission? The sky official took 12 people away. Not long after, another heavenly official arrived and took away 12 people. In this way, another heavenly official would come and take away a group of people. Not all 12 people were taken away. Sometimes 15 people were taken away, sometimes over 100. The number was uncertain. Lu Ming roughly understood that the Heavenly Palace's examination was divided into many missions. Each group of people would complete one mission. Lu Ming waited patiently. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. The people in the square came and went, and came again. Finally, Iron Sea Star Zone's Fengdu Sword Sex Mu Yun, Ziying Races Zi Meng. The 12 of you, follow me to complete the examination. A white-haired heavenly official announced. It's finally my turn. Lu Ming smiled and stepped forward. 11 other people also stepped forward. The white-haired heavenly official waved his hand, and a beam of energy swept up Lu Ming's group, and took them in a certain direction. On the way, Lu Ming's group of 12 people looked at each other. Among them, there were 7 young people who looked like they were in their 20s. There were men and women. Among the other 5, there were 3 middle-aged men and 2 old men. Their cultivation levels aren't low. Lu Ming looked at them and realized that their cultivation levels were very high. Apart from him, the weakest one had the strength of the 3rd godly emperor layer. The strongest one was an old man. He didn't release his qi, so he couldn't guess. But he had to have the strength of the 6th godly emperor layer. He had the lowest cultivation level, the 1st godly emperor layer. The others glanced at Lu Ming, but they just glanced at him and didn't pay him any attention. Even though Mu Yun was famous in the universe, the real strong cultivators didn't take him seriously. After all, back then, Lu Ming had only been a quasi-emperor layer cultivator. Now it seemed that even though Lu Ming had broken through to the godly emperor layer, he had just broken through to the 1st godly emperor layer. They weren't ordinary people, so they didn't take a cultivator of the 1st godly emperor layer seriously. They glanced at each other and tried to remember each other's faces. After a short time, they arrived in front of a wormhole. They stepped into the wormhole, and in the next moment, they arrived on a planet with life. "All right, now I'll announce your tasks," said the sky official. Everyone felt a chill in their hearts and began to listen attentively. This is the group of Flying Cloud Star Area. The group of Flying Cloud Star Area is controlled by 2 influential groups, the Flying Stars Sect and the Moon Cloud Pavilion. However, the Heavenly Palace has found out that the Flying Stars Sect doesn't respect the Heavenly Palace. They might be in contact with rebels. Therefore, your task is to help the Moon Cloud Pavilion destroy the Flying Stars Sect, said the sky official. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Everybody was astonished. Their task was to destroy a powerful influential group of the universe. What made them even more confused was that the reason for destroying the Flying Stars sect was that they didn't respect the Heavenly Palace and were in contact with rebels. What was a rebel? Wasn't the primitive universe under the control of the Heavenly Palace? It was the era of the Heavenly Palace. The Heavenly Palace was supreme. How could there be rebels? It seemed like there were many secrets in the primitive universe. Lu Ming's eyes flashed and thoughts flashed across his mind. He knew some secrets. The Heavenly Palace was not without enemies, such as the Life Spirit Heavenly Court, the Dragon Clan, and especially the family of Xian Yanqing's previous life, the Flying Phoenix Clan, and others seemed to be enemies. Who was the rebel the sky official was talking about? Was it the Tang clan that supported Xian Yanqing? Or was it someone else? Master Sky Official, how strong is the Flying Stars sect? What's the cultivation level of their strongest cultivator? Asked an old man respectfully. I know you want to ask. The Flying Stars sect is quite strong. The Patriarch is a cultivator of the 9th Godly Emperor layer. Below him, there are more than a dozen cultivators of the 8th Godly Emperor layer, said the Sky Official. Chapter 3972. The Sky Official's words caused everyone to pale. There are cultivators of the 9th Godly Emperor layer. There are more than a dozen cultivators of the 8th Godly Emperor layer, shouted a few people. The others pulled long faces. How could they kill a cultivator of the 8th or 9th Godly Emperor layer? How could they kill him? Lu Ming was the only one who looked calm. I didn't ask you to go to the Flying Star sect and destroy them. I asked you to help the Yunhua Pavilion destroy the Flying Star sect. The Yunhua Pavilion isn't much weaker than the Flying Star sect. They also have cultivators of the 9th Godly Emperor layer, said the Tian official. Only then did everyone relax. The Yunhua Pavilion also had cultivators of the 9th Godly Emperor layer. You have 1 year. You must complete the mission within 1 year. Also, only 2 of the 12 of you can pass the test. The 2 of you who have contributed the most and performed the best will pass the test. The rest will be eliminated, said the Tian official. Everybody's expression changed drastically. The 12 of them had to destroy the Flying Star sect within 1 year. Even if they managed to destroy the Flying Star sect, only the 2 who had contributed the most would be able to finish the task. That way, the task would be much more difficult. Not only did they have to destroy the Flying Star sect, but they also had to compete with each other. The 12 of them glanced at each other. Some of them looked murderous. Nobody knew what they were thinking. All right, I'll take you to the Yunhua Pavilion. Heavenly official path then led Lu Ming and the 12 of them to break the void and leave. The sky official's cultivation base was terrifyingly profound, surpassing the God Emperor level at the very least. With the 12 of them, he was able to break through the void. Before long, they arrived at an enormous planet. As soon as they arrived, a group of people flew out to welcome them. Welcome, emissaries from the heavenly palace. A middle-aged man, leading a group of people, bowed and saluted. That middle-aged man's chi was extremely powerful. He was the leader of the Yunhua Pavilion, a cultivator of the 9th godly emperor layer. However, that cultivator of the 9th godly emperor layer was extremely respectful in front of the sky official, like a little puppy. The Tian official said expressionlessly, "Take these 12 people with you. They'll help you destroy the Flying Star sect." Roger. The pavilion master of the Pavilion of Clouds and Rain said respectfully. The sky official nodded. He turned around and took a step forward. The void rippled and his figure disappeared. "Everyone, please follow me and stay here. We'll discuss the matter of dealing with the Flying Star sect another day." Of course, he was not as respectful as he was to the sky official, but he was still polite. Everyone followed the Yunhua Pavilion master, and the others into the planet below. They arrived at a palace and stayed there temporarily. Yunhua Pavilion in the Great Meeting Hall. The pavilion master of the Yunhua Pavilion and some other upper echelons of the Yunhua Pavilion were gathered together for a meeting. Leader, the Heavenly Palace only sent 12 people. The strongest one among them only has the strength of the 7th godly emperor layer. Most of them have the strength of the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and even the 1st godly emperor layer. How could they destroy the Flying Star sect? Indeed, I don't think we can defeat a cultivator of the 8th godly emperor layer. We've been fighting against the Flying Star sect for a while now, and we're at a disadvantage. Many people in the Yunhua Pavilion were complaining. "Don't underestimate those people," said the pavilion master of the Yunhua Pavilion. Everybody quieted down. "The Heavenly Palace is recruiting celestial soldiers now. Those people must have signed up for the exam," said the pavilion master of the Yunhua Pavilion. "Leader, you mean there are some incredible geniuses among them?" Ask someone. "That's right. Anyone who signs up for the Heavenly Soldier assessment is not weak. Even the older ones have strong combat strength. Cultivation is not the only criterion. Since the Heavenly Palace sent them here, they must think that there is someone who can help us destroy the Flying Stars sect. Otherwise, they would not have sent them here. The Heavenly Palace must have paid special attention to the people they send. Don't underestimate any of those 12 people," said the pavilion master of the Yunhua Pavilion. Yes. Everybody nodded. In the Yunhua Pavilion, Lu Ming took out some weapons and gave them to Qiu Qiu. Qiu Qiu had a huge appetite. Every once in a while, it would eat a batch of weapons or high-level metal materials. After feeding Qiu Qiu, Lu Ming sat down cross-legged and focused on cultivating. He had just broken through to the Divine Emperor realm. He had to make the best use of his time to stabilize his cultivation. The day passed quickly. On the second day, the pavilion master of the Yunhua Pavilion summoned them for a meeting. "Everyone, the strength of the Yunhua Pavilion and the Flying Star sect are about the same. In terms of high-end combat strength, we are slightly weaker than them. However, I believe that with everyone's help, we will be able to destroy the Flying Star sect very quickly," said the pavilion master of the Yunhua Pavilion. Everybody nodded. They knew that the pavilion master of the Yunhua Pavilion was just being polite. As expected, the pavilion master of the Yunhua Pavilion continued. "The main battlefield between the Yunhua Pavilion and the Flying Star sect will be the Flying Cloud Continent. That is a continent floating in the void. However, now is not the time for a decisive battle. We need to take over a few important planets of the Flying Star sect. These places all have wormholes. Once we take over these places, the Flying Star sect's flexibility will be greatly reduced. What do you want us to do, Pavilion Master?" asked an old man from the group of 12. He had the strength of the 7th godly emperor layer. He was the strongest cultivator among Lu Ming's group. "All right, I will split you up. You will go to those important places and cooperate with the Yunhua Pavilion. We will take those places," said the pavilion master of the Yunhua pavilion. Everybody nodded. They had no objections. Very quickly, the pavilion master of the Yunhua pavilion divided them into 6 groups of 2, and they went to 6 different places. Lu Ming and a young man in blue clothes were in the same group. The young man glanced at Lu Ming indifferently. He didn't take Lu Ming seriously. On the contrary, he was happy. Lu Ming was in the same group as him, so Lu Ming couldn't compete with him. He had heard of Mu Yun. Even though Mu Yun was a terrifying cultivator, he wasn't weak either. He had already broken through to the top of the 4th godly emperor layer. He could fight against ordinary cultivators of the 5th godly emperor layer. Lu Ming only had the strength of the 1st godly emperor layer, so he didn't take him seriously. After splitting up, there were naturally people who would lead them out. Lu Ming and the others were going to a place called Kuandong Planet. The Yunhua Pavilion had an army there. Lu Ming and the young man in blue clothes went through a wormhole and arrived on Kuandong Planet. On the way, Lu Ming learned the young man's name. His name was Su Yi, and he was from the Heavenly Eagles clan. The Heavenly Eagles clan was ranked 137th in the list of the 10,000 clans of ancient desolation. Su Yi was also a famous genius of the Heavenly Eagles clan. He was a godly emperor and could fight against cultivators of higher cultivation levels. He was extremely talented. Chapter 3973. As soon as Lu Ming and Su Yi arrived at Kuandong Planet, they saw a general in armor leading an army to welcome them. The 2 of them were welcomed into a military camp. "Brother Su, please have a seat." The general in armor was called Brother Hao. He was very polite to Su Yi and led him to the seat of honor. However, he was much colder to Lu Ming. Su Yi had the strength of the top of the 4th godly emperor layer, and he looked very young. He was definitely a genius. Such a person would be very beneficial to Kuandong Planet. However, Lu Ming was only at the 1st level of the Divine Emperor realm. In their opinion, he was dispensable. He would not be of any help to the battle on Kuandong Planet. He didn't understand why the Heavenly Palace had sent a cultivator of the 1st godly emperor layer to Kuandong Planet. He was just a hindrance. Of course, he could only suppress these doubts and dissatisfaction in his heart. He did not dare to voice them out. However, he could not help but express his dissatisfaction through his actions. For example, he was not very enthusiastic towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming noticed that, but he didn't take it to heart. He just sat down and drank. "Brother Hao, what's the situation on Kuandong Planet?" Su Yi casually sat at the head of the table and asked. Then, a beautiful maid poured wine for him. The east side of Kuandong Planet is occupied by the Yunhua Pavilion, and the west side is occupied by the Feixing sect. But the most important wormhole is in the west. We've attacked it a few times, but we haven't been able to take it," said Brother Hao. "What kind of strong cultivators do they have?" asked Su Yi. "They have 2 cultivators of the top of the 5th godly emperor layer. They're very strong. We only have 2 cultivators of the top of the 5th godly emperor layer. We don't have the advantage. The other strong cultivators are fighting everywhere, especially in Feiyun. It's difficult to send them out," said Brother Hao. "Only the top of the 5th godly emperor layer? That's easy." After Su Yi heard this, he revealed a confident expression. Brother Hao's eyes twinkled. "Do you have a solution?" "Of course, if they only have the strength of the 5th godly emperor layer, I'm strong enough to fight against them," Su Yi said proudly. Brother Hao was amazed and said, "Prince Su Yi only has the strength of the 4th godly emperor layer, but he can compete with cultivators of the 5th godly emperor layer." "Haha, I wouldn't dare. Of course, that's not enough. I have a secret treasure that can injure cultivators of the 5th godly emperor layer. With that, I can kill cultivators of the 5th godly emperor layer as easily as killing chickens." Su Yi said he didn't dare, but he looked very proud of himself. At the same time, he said he had a trump card which could only be used once. It could injure cultivators of the 5th godly emperor layer. Hearing that, the smile on Brother Hao's face grew wider. At the side, the others also flattered Su Yi. From beginning to end, they had neglected Lu Ming. A cultivator of the 1st godly emperor layer couldn't do anything. Besides, he couldn't become a celestial soldier, so why should they care? It's not the right time to attack. We'll wait for the Pavilion Master's order. As soon as the Pavilion Master gives the order, we'll immediately launch an attack and take down the entire Kuandong planet in one fell swoop. Brother Hao said. Sui nodded and ended the meeting. Lu Ming didn't say anything. He just sat there and slowly sipped his wine. To be honest, the wine was really good. Lu Ming couldn't help but drink a few more cups. Brother Hao and the others disdained Lu Ming even more. They thought that Lu Ming knew that he was weak, so he didn't say anything. After the meeting, Lu Ming went back to his room and sat down cross-legged. A bone pearl appeared in his hand. That bone pearl was the container that Gu Mo used to seal the ancient secret skills and other secret skills of the demon path. Before, Lu Ming was in a hurry, so he didn't have time to open it. Now he had time to open it. According to Gu Mo's instructions, Lu Ming used a special talisman to inject it into the bone pearl. After a short time, the bone pearl emitted dazzling lights. Then talismans flew out of it. There were at least a few hundred talismans. Most of them were black talismans, but one of them was black gold in color. It was very eye-catching. Lu Ming grabbed the black gold jade talisman with his hand and sank his spiritual sense into it. One of the 3,000 ancient secret skills, the Great Demonic Sword Technique. Lu Ming whispered, but to be honest, he was a little disappointed. The Great Demonic Sword Technique was also an offensive secret skill. However, Lu Ming already had the Great Shattering Technique and the Great Godwind Technique. Another one wouldn't be of much help to him. However, he still had to cultivate. No matter what kind of secret skill it was, Lu Ming had to cultivate it. This was to lay the foundation for his future. However, it wasn't easy to cultivate the ancient secret skill. Lu Ming planned to find a chance to cultivate it later. Lu Ming memorized the Great Demonic Sword Technique, and then looked at the other secret skills. There were more than 300 demon secret skills. Moreover, Lu Ming hadn't cultivated many demon secret skills before. Therefore, there were 300 demon secret skills that Lu Ming hadn't cultivated before. Lu Ming was overjoyed. He collected all of them and would cultivate them when he had time. After collecting them, Lu Ming took out some elvenwood hearts and began to absorb them to strengthen his foundation. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. After a month of cultivation, Lu Ming's cultivation level was completely stabilized. He had completely stabilized at the first godly emperor layer. Compared to when I just broke through, my strength has increased by 50%. Lu Ming smiled. When he fought against Yin Jiuling in the Dark Pit Demon Mountain, he had just broken through and his strength hadn't reached the peak yet. Now his cultivation level had completely stabilized, and his strength had reached the peak. He was 50% stronger than when he was in the Dark Pit Demon Mountain. Now he was confident that he wouldn't be so embarrassed if he fought against Yin Jiuling again. He alone was enough to fight against him. He didn't need to team up with Fighting God Yuan 1. After stabilizing his cultivation level, Lu Ming planned to start cultivating the demon secret skills. However, at this time, Lu Ming received news from Brother Hao that they were about to launch an attack. He could only cultivate the secret skills later. Lu Ming left his residence and went to the barracks with Sui to set off with the army. This time, we have the help of the emissary of the Heavenly Palace. We will definitely destroy the Flying Star sect. Now let's go and take Kuandong Star. Brother Hao shouted. Victory! At least 100,000 soldiers shouted. Swoosh! The 100,000 soldiers were all experts. They turned into rainbow lights and flew to the west of Kuandong Star. It was a very spectacular sight. They were very fast and soon arrived at the west of Kuandong Star. However, there was a strong divine light flickering in front of them, illuminating the starry sky. In front of them, there was a large army blocking their way. This army was naturally the army of the Flying Star sect. They had already known that the Yunhua Pavilion was about to attack, and had made defensive preparations in advance. Chapter 3974. The Flying Star sect's army was lined up neatly, blotting out the sky and blotting out the earth. There were at least 100,000 of them. The two armies hadn't even collided yet, but their terrifying chi had already collided. Boom! The atmosphere shook violently as a terrifying crack appeared in the sky. It looked like a ferocious mouth had appeared in the sky. Die! Destroy the Flying Star Sect!" shouted Brother Hao furiously. He took the lead and charged towards the Flying Star Sect's army. "Die!" shouted the Yunhua Pavilion's army. All sorts of godly lights dazzled as all sorts of weapons rose up in the air. In the end, they turned into a terrifying force and moved towards the Flying Star Sect's army. However, the Flying Star Sect's army also released all sorts of attacks and collided with the Yunhua Pavilion's army. After a series of explosions, the distance between the two armies was reduced. Horrible shrieks filled the air as the two armies collided. At least a few hundred people were killed. Blood dyed the sky red. Die. There was a long howl that was exceptionally sharp and bright. Sui was surrounded by dazzling godly lights. In front of him, 3 swords were floating. Those 3 swords looked like the feathers of an eagle. Actually, they were made from the feathers of an extremely strong cultivator of the Heavenly Eagle clan. They were extremely sharp. The illusory figure brushed past the 3 divine swords and continued its killing spree. Every time it flickered, a few people would be pierced by the divine swords or split into 2 halves. Sui moved forwards and killed dozens of strong cultivators of the Flying Star Sect. No matter if they were cultivators of the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd godly emperor layer, they were all killed instantly. Of course, the strong cultivators of the Flying Star Sect noticed him. "Little boy, die!" shouted a cultivator of the 4th godly emperor layer from the Flying Star Sect. He stared at Sui and attacked him. That person was surrounded by starlight. He waved his hand and starlight turned into a sword which descended from the sky and pierced toward Suyi's head. "You want to die?" Sui smiled coldly. He waved his sword and the starlight battle sword broke apart. Then, his 3 swords shot out and appeared in front of the cultivator of the 4th godly emperor layer of the Flying Star Sect. The cultivator of the Flying Star Sect was astonished. He hastily used all sorts of skills to block the attack, but it was useless. Slash. Suyi's battle sword directly pierced through all of his defenses, piercing 3 transparent holes in his dantian, chest, and glabella. The cultivator of the 4th godly emperor layer from the Flying Star Sect had died instantly. How strong! When the people of the Yunhua Pavilion saw how strong Sui was, instantly killing people of the same level as him, their morale soared. Ao Ao roared and charged at Sui. Brother House Chi. L. Suyi's battle prowess was indeed strong. It was not wrong to say that he could fight those above his level. At this moment, Lu Ming's performance was neither fast nor slow. He charged forward with the army and did not stand out. Sui was in high spirits as he charged towards Brother Hao. At that moment, Brother Hao was fighting against a general of the top of the 5th godly emperor layer. Sui brushed past the 3 swords and fiercely slashed at the general. The general of the Flying Star Sect was wielding a battle saber that glittered with starlight. With a loud roar, he swung his saber at Suyi's 3 divine swords. Clang! Clang! A violent collision broke out, and energy waves spread in all directions. The Flying Star Sect's general and Sui were forced to retreat. They were evenly matched. The people from the Yunhua Pavilion and the Flying Star Sect were all shocked. In the Divine Emperor realm, the gap between each level was huge. It was extremely difficult to fight against someone of a higher level. But Sui, with the strength of the 4th godly emperor layer, was able to fight against a general of the top of the 5th godly emperor layer. They had never seen such a genius before. They were all dumbfounded. Brother Hao was the first to react. He was overjoyed. With a roar, he charged toward the general of the Flying Star Sect. Whoosh! Whoosh! Sui also joined forces with Brother Hao. Suddenly, the Flying Star Sect's general was forced to retreat again and again. He only had the strength to defend himself, and was unable to fight back. The other cultivator of the 5th godly emperor layer from the Flying Star Sect was fighting against a cultivator of the 5th godly emperor layer from the Yunhua Pavilion. The Flying Star Sect was in a bad situation. Boom! At that moment, a tall and sturdy man wearing armor from the Flying Star Sect suddenly had the strength of the 4th godly emperor layer. He suddenly had the strength of the 5th godly emperor layer. He was holding a spear, and it moved like a bolt of lightning. He was fighting against a cultivator of the 4th godly emperor layer from the Yunhua Pavilion. He was startled and hastily dodged. But in the godly emperor layer, The difference of one godly emperor layer was overwhelming. The cultivator of the fourth godly emperor layer from the Yunhua pavilion was instantly killed. Then, he turned into a beam of light and moved toward Sui. Sui had no choice but to give up on the general of the Flying Star sect and fight against him. How come you have a cultivator of the fifth godly emperor layer? Brother Hao was astonished. The Flying Star sect and the Yunhua pavilion were fighting on the battlefield. It was difficult for them to send out strong cultivators. How come they suddenly had a cultivator of the fifth godly emperor layer? Could it be that something had happened on the battlefield? They're from the Feiyun continent, of course. They're waiting for the big fish. Smiled the general of the Flying Star sect coldly. Boom. At that moment, a powerful chi rose up in the air from the Flying Star sect. Surprisingly, another cultivator of the fifth godly emperor layer appeared and threw himself at Sui. It's over. At that moment, the faces of the Yunhua pavilion's army turned deathly pale. The enemy had hidden so many strong cultivators in their army. They had 2 more cultivators of the fifth godly emperor layer than they had expected. That kind of fighting strength was enough to turn the situation around. Were the Yunhua pavilion going to suffer a crushing defeat? You want to die? At that moment, Sui coldly shouted. His eyes revealed a gloomy expression. At the same time, 2 black beads appeared in his hand. Within the 2 black beads were strands of lightning flickering. I didn't want to use them, but since you want to die, I'll help you, said Sui icily. Then he threw the 2 pearls at them. Boom boom. The 2 pearls exploded and released lightning. In a flash, the 2 cultivators of the fourth godly emperor layer were engulfed by the lightning. Around them, some other strong cultivators were also engulfed by the lightning. They didn't even have time to scream before they turned into ashes. When the lightning disappeared, 2 silhouettes were blown away. Their clothes were tattered and their chi was extremely weak. It was the 2 cultivators of the fifth godly emperor layer from the Flying Star sect. At that moment, they were severely injured and their chi was extremely weak. When Brother Hao and the others saw that, they were extremely happy. Sui had said that he had a weapon that could injure cultivators of the top of the fifth godly emperor layer. Chapter 3975. Die! Shouted Sui furiously after injuring the 2 cultivators of the fifth godly emperor layer. Then he threw himself at the 2 cultivators of the fifth godly emperor layer. Help! Shouted the 2 cultivators of the fifth godly emperor layer. No one can save you, smiled Sui coldly. Little boy, you want to die? As soon as Sui finished his sentence, a loud roar could be heard coming from the Flying Star sect. Following this, several terrifying auras rose into the sky. There were a total of 3 auras, and they were extremely terrifying. As soon as the auras appeared, a few beams of divine light shot towards Sui. That's 6th godly emperor layer. Sui's face turned pale with fright. He hastily made his 3 swords fly out and collide with the 3 beams of godly light. Although the 3 divine lights were blocked, Sui's 3 divine swords were also beaten until they lost their luster. They flew out, and no one knew where they flew to. Swoosh! Swoosh! 3 tall and sturdy silhouettes appeared from the Flying Star sect. They were surrounded by starlight. 6th godly emperor layer. Shouted Brother Hao furiously. Not only were there cultivators of the 5th godly emperor layer in the enemy's camp, but there were also cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer. It was over. At that moment, they could only put their hopes on Sui. They hoped that he could create a miracle and save the situation. Otherwise, the Yunhua pavilion's army would be in danger. Sui pulled a long face when he saw the 3 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer coming towards him. He clenched his teeth and took out 5 black orbs from his storage ring. He only had 7 of those Tai Chi lightning pearls. He had already used 2 of them, so he only had 5 left. He hoped he could injure the cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer of the Flying Star sect. He waved his hand and threw the 5 pearls at them. 5 explosions sounded as the 5 pearls exploded. The 3 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer, and a few hundred people from the Flying Star sect were trapped inside, including the 2 cultivators of the 5th godly emperor layer, who had been seriously injured. Lightning filled the air, and the people from the Flying Star sect who were trapped inside were turned into ashes. However, 3 figures managed to rush out of the range of the lightning. It was the 3 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer. Their godly lights were dim, and some parts of their bodies were burnt. They had been injured by the Tai Chi lightning pearl. However, his injuries were not serious. The Tai Chi lightning pearl could injure cultivators of the 5th godly emperor layer, but it couldn't harm cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer. However, apart from the cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer, the cultivators of the Flying Star sect, including the 2 cultivators of the 5th godly emperor layer, were all dead. The 3 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer were furious. Kill that brat. That kid is dead for sure. Kill. The 3 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer were furious and threw themselves at Su Yi. Su Yi's expression changed drastically, revealing a look of fear as he turned around and ran. He was strong enough to fight against cultivators of the 5th godly emperor layer, but against cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer, he would die instantly, let alone 3 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer. A pair of wings extended from his back, flapping wildly as he fled for his life. However, he wasn't as fast as the cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer. They were getting closer and closer to him. Stop them. I order you to stop them. Sui charged into the Yunhua Pavilion's army and roared at the Yunhua Pavilion. But the people of the Yunhua Pavilion didn't dare stop the cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer. Therefore, the people of the Yunhua Pavilion moved to the sides. Fuck! Shouted Sui furiously. His hands turned into talons, and he grabbed a few people of the Yunhua Pavilion and threw them at the 3 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer of the Flying Star sect. His goal was to delay them so that he could escape. The people of the Yunhua Pavilion who were thrown away gave horrible shrieks as the 3 cultivators of the Flying Star sect smashed them into pieces. Sui kept throwing people of the Yunhua Pavilion at the 3 cultivators of the Flying Star sect. In the blink of an eye, over 100 people had been thrown away. They all died at the hands of the 3 cultivators of the Flying Star sect. What's going on? Brother Hao and the others pulled long faces. The favorable impression that Sui had created for him was now gone. In order to survive, he had sacrificed his own teammates. How shameless. At that moment, they didn't have a good impression of Sui anymore. Everywhere Sui went, the people of the Yunhua Pavilion ran away. Of course, there was one person who didn't run away. Lu Ming. Lu Ming had been following the army the whole time. He hadn't done anything special. He didn't like to show off. Since Sui wanted to show off, Lu Ming didn't mind. At that moment, Sui threw himself at Lu Ming ferociously. He shouted furiously, "Little boy, go and stop them. Even if you die, you have to stop them." At the same time, he grabbed Lu Ming's shoulder with his talons and threw him back. He wanted to throw Lu Ming towards the 3 cultivators of the Flying Star sect. But he didn't move. Sui had the impression he was grabbing a planet. He couldn't throw him away. On the contrary, because he was using too much strength, his arm almost broke. Piss off, little boy. Sui roared again and unleashed all his strength, wanting to throw Lu Ming out. However, he still did not move an inch. Sui was dumbstruck. He looked at Lu Ming incredulously. Lu Ming was looking at him coldly. If you hadn't provoked me, I wouldn't have bothered with you. But since you provoked me, I have no choice but to help you, said Lu Ming coldly. He stretched out his hand and put it on Suyi's face. His hand shook violently and Suyi's body was blown away towards the 3 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer of the Flying Star sect. Ah! Sui screamed in horror. He wanted to stabilize his body, but he realized that he could not do so at all. Lu Ming's outburst of power was too strong. How could a cultivator of the 1st godly emperor layer be that strong? Die. At that moment, the 3 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer of the Flying Star sect arrived and attacked Sui. Sui gave a horrible shriek, and then his body and soul were destroyed. That little boy is evil. Kill him first. After killing Sui, one of the cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer of the Flying Star sect looked at Lu Ming. He used starlight to appear in front of Lu Ming, and threw a punch at Lu Ming. Boom. Lu Ming was also very direct. He also threw a punch at the other party's fist. He had just broken through to the godly emperor lair, so he wanted to see how strong he was. Rumbling sounds spread in all directions. Then, the starlight broke apart and a silhouette was blown away. It was the cultivator of the 6th godly emperor lair from the Flying Star sect. His fist was dripping with blood. His bones had been broken by Lu Ming's punch. Chapter 3976. Everybody was dumbstruck when they saw that. Especially the people of the Yunhua Pavilion, such as Brother Hao and the others. How is that possible? Brother Hao and the others' eyes were wide open. Lu Ming only had the strength of the 1st godly emperor lair, but he had defeated a cultivator of the 6th godly emperor lair in one punch, and he had even injured him. Were they hallucinating? Or were they dreaming? At the same time, the 3 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor lair from the Flying Star sect were also astonished. A cultivator of the 1st godly emperor lair had injured a cultivator of the 6th godly emperor lair in one punch. They had never heard of such a thing. That little boy is evil. Let's join hands and kill him, said the cultivator of the 6th godly emperor lair, who had been injured. Godly lights surrounded him again. Die! Shouted the other 2 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor lair. The 3 of them joined hands and charged towards Lu Ming. Come! Lu Ming's eyes were twinkling. He looked excited. He jumped forwards and moved like a mountain towards his opponents. He also used his full strength. His battle formula had increased his fighting strength 6-fold. As Lu Ming continued practicing cultivation, the success rate of his battle formula increasing his fighting strength 6-fold was increasing. Now Lu Ming's success rate of increasing his fighting strength 6-fold was less than 10%. Boom! The 4 cultivators collided. In the blink of an eye, they had already exchanged a dozen attacks. Terrifying chi rolled in all directions. Nobody could stand there anymore. Even cultivators of the 5th godly emperor lair would be killed instantly if they got too close to the chi. Everyone was dumbfounded. Especially Brother Hao and the others. Their mouths were wide open, unable to close. Lu Ming had the strength of the 1st godly emperor lair. And surprisingly, he could fight against 3 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor lair at the same time. That was 5 godly emperors. Before, when Sui had broken through 1 godly emperor lair, they had been astonished. But now he had broken through 5 godly emperors. They were astonished. It turned out that this was a true monstrous genius. That was what all the members of the Yunhua Pavilion were thinking. They all knew that they had made a mistake in their judgment, and looked down on others. Previously, he had thought that Sui was a king and Lu Ming was a bronze. It was proven that Lu Ming was the king, while Sui was the bronze. After a dozen more attacks, the 3 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor lair from the Flying Star sect were pushed back. They all pulled long faces and blood splashed out of their mouths. With the 3 of them joining forces, they were actually not Lu Ming's match and fell into a disadvantage. The shock the 3 of them felt was indescribable. Is this my current combat strength? Lu Ming muttered. He was very satisfied with his current combat strength. He didn't need to use other weapons, he could kill cultivators of the 6th godly emperor lair on his own. Yes, he was that terrifying now. It could kill enemies that were 5 levels higher. Yin Jiuling, as a Universe Genius List candidate, was able to fight across 4 levels. Lu Ming was much stronger than Yin Jiuling. This was the terror of a forbidden body. In the vast universe, there were countless geniuses. This was the pinnacle. It's time to end this, whispered Lu Ming. At the same time, 4 stone pearls flew out of his wrist. They were gravity pearls. When he was a quasi-emperor, Lu Ming could only control 3 gravity pearls. After breaking through to the godly emperor lair, Lu Ming could control 4 gravity pearls. The gravity created by 4 gravity pearls was 10 times stronger than 3 gravity pearls. A terrifying gravity surrounded the 3 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor lair. The 3 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor lair from the Flying Star sect were astonished. Oh no, run! Retreat! The 3 cultivators of the 6th godly emperor lair from the Flying Star sect retreated without the slightest hesitation. They knew that when Lu Ming hadn't used such a treasure, they couldn't compete with him. Now that Lu Ming had used such a treasure, they definitely couldn't compete with him. They would definitely die. but they were surrounded by the gravity pearls. They were much slower. Lu Ming's silhouette flickered. He caught up with one of them and attacked him furiously. Even if the other two cultivators of the sixth godly emperor layer wanted to help, they wouldn't have time. Ah! The cultivator of the sixth godly emperor layer gave a horrible shriek. Half of his body exploded from Lu Ming's attack. He tried to run away, but it was useless. Boom! A terrifying and destructive chi rolled out. The cultivator of the sixth godly emperor layer gave a horrible shriek as his body exploded. He had been killed by Lu Ming. After killing him, Lu Ming moved on to another cultivator. With the help of the gravity pearls, Lu Ming had the absolute advantage. The other two cultivators of the sixth godly emperor layer tried their best, but it was useless. One after the other, they were killed by Lu Ming. Run. After the three cultivators of the sixth godly emperor layer were killed, the Yunhua Pavilion's army lost their minds and started running away. Die. Destroy the Flying Star sect. Brother Hao and the others finally came back to their senses. They shouted furiously and chased after Lu Ming. Lu Ming stepped out. In a few flashes, he dashed into the army of the Flying Star sect. Every time he attacked, a cultivator at the third level of the Divine Emperor realm would be killed. Lu Ming attacked cultivators of the third godly emperor layer and above. Lu Ming didn't bother attacking cultivators of the third godly emperor layer and below. That way, he could turn the tide of the battle. Lu Ming killed cultivators of the third godly emperor layer and above. The Flying Star sect's army couldn't fight against the Yunhua Pavilion's army anymore. They kept chasing after Lu Ming. After a few hours, almost 60% of the Flying Star sect's army had been killed. A few managed to escape. The entire planet Kuandong was under the control of the Yunhua Pavilion, including the wormhole. They had won the battle. In the army camp, Brother Hao and the others were extremely respectful in front of Lu Ming. Their heads were almost touching their stomachs. Prince Mu Yun is really a peerless genius. He has the demeanor of a legendary king. Today was an eye-opener for me. If I hadn't seen him, I wouldn't have believed that such a peerless genius like Prince Mu Yun existed. Come, let's toast to Prince Mu Yun. Brother Hao and the rest flattered Lu Ming, trying their best to get into his good books. In their opinion, such an incredible genius like Lu Ming would definitely join the Heavenly Palace. In the future, he would even be a high-ranking member of the Heavenly Palace and become an overlord. Naturally, they had to curry favor with him. Everyone, you're welcome. Lu Ming's face was calm. He raised his glass and replied indifferently. After 3 rounds of drinking, Lu Ming said goodbye. Everyone, the mission on planet Kuandong has been completed. I will now return to the headquarters of the Yunhua Pavilion and wait for the next battle. With that, Lu Ming got up and left. After a while, Lu Ming returned to the headquarters of the Yunhua Pavilion. Chapter 3977. When he returned to the headquarters of the Yunhua Pavilion, Lu Ming found that the other participants had all returned. They had all completed their tasks and were ready to head to the Feiyun continent to fight against the Flying Star sect. However, there were fewer people. There were 12 of them in total. Now there were only 8 people left, including Lu Ming. When the others saw that Lu Ming had returned alone, they were surprised. They were surprised that Lu Ming, who was only at the first Divine Emperor realm, had returned instead of Su Yi, who was stronger than them. However, no one asked about it. No one knew what they were thinking. The leader of the Yunhua Pavilion decided to head to the Feiyun continent in 3 days to fight against the Flying Star sect and destroy them. The moonlight was like water and the stars were twinkling. It was late at night. In the room, Lu Ming, who was cultivating, suddenly opened his eyes. There was a dazzling glow in his eyes. There were streams of blood in his room. They seeped into the room from the corners of the room and rushed toward Lu Ming as if they were alive. Finally, someone can't wait any longer? Lu Ming whispered. He knew that the 12 of them would kill each other. Out of the 12 people, only the 2 with the highest contributions would pass the test. How could they ensure that they had contributed the most? Of course, the others were all dead. That was the safest way. Therefore, there were only 8 people left. However, it was obviously not enough. There were too many people, and someone was going to attack Lu Ming. Whoosh! 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 Suddenly, the blood turned into blood-red arrows and shot toward Lu Ming. Humph! Lu Ming snorted coldly. With a wave of his hand, his palm force burst forth, spreading out like water ripples. All of the blood-colored arrows collapsed. Lu Ming's figure flashed and he appeared outside the room. There was a courtyard outside the room. At the moment, a red-haired young man was standing in the courtyard. Shuechuan. Lu Ming said coldly. This person was from the inferior blood tribe, a large tribe in the primitive universe. The inferior blood race was said to have a close relationship with the blood race. It was said that they were made up of blood race members with impure blood. Shuechuan was one of the strongest cultivators of the inferior blood clan. He had the strength of the top of the 4th godly emperor layer, but it was said that he had fought against cultivators of the 6th godly emperor layer for 100 times and hadn't died. In the divine emperor realm, being able to surpass 2 levels was considered a top genius even among the countless geniuses in the primitive universe. I didn't expect you to be able to take one of my attacks and not die. It seems like I've underestimated you. Shuechuan sneered. His face was extremely cold. Looks like you still don't know about Kuandong planet. Lu Ming said. What about Kuandong planet? Shuechuan was slightly stunned. Lu Ming understood. Brother Hao would definitely report what had happened on Kundong planet to the Yunhua Pavilion Master. However, there was no need for the Yunhua Pavilion Master to inform Lu Ming and the others. Therefore, the other candidates didn't know about Lu Ming's incredible strength on Kuandong planet. Nothing. I'm just curious. I'm only a cultivator of the 1st godly emperor layer. I shouldn't be a threat to you. Why do you want to kill me first? Lu Ming asked. On the surface, with Lu Ming's cultivation level, it was impossible for him to pass the exam. However, Shuechuan was the first one to kill him. He couldn't help but feel a little strange. Since you're going to die, I'll let you know why. First, I instinctively feel that your blood tastes good. If I drink your blood, it may make me stronger. Second, as long as you're alive, you're an unknown factor. I'll kill you one by one. You're the first one. Shuechuan sneered. His face was ferocious. You're really unlucky. You should have chosen someone else. That way, you could have lived a little longer. Lu Ming shook his head and sighed. Ridiculous. Don't talk nonsense. Die, shouted Shuechuan coldly. His blood chi filled the air. His whole body was enveloped by a bloody light. Then he turned into a bloody sword light and slashed towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming waved his hand and 4 gravity pearls flew out. He didn't want to waste time talking nonsense with his opponent. He directly used the gravity pearls. The strength of the 4 gravity pearls completely covered the courtyard. The powerful gravity pressed down on Shuechuan. Shuechuan's body shook violently. The bloody light on his body almost collapsed. Whoosh! Lu Ming attacked. He activated the battle formula and increased his fighting strength by 5 times. He used the Great Holy Wind technique and the Great Breaking technique. His hand was like a knife. Poof! Blood splattered everywhere. Shuechuan's body was torn apart. He couldn't be more dead. One move. Just one move and Shuechuan was killed by Lu Ming. Shuechuan's fighting strength was only equivalent to the strength of the 6th godly emperor layer. After Lu Ming used the gravity pearls, he was caught off guard and was instantly killed by Lu Ming. Lu Ming grabbed Shuechuan's interspatial ring and took it. Then he condensed a flame and burned Shuechuan's body to ashes. Hee, are you all pretending to be stupid? Lu Ming glanced around and smiled indifferently. The other people who were participating in the exam lived nearby. Lu Ming didn't believe that these people hadn't noticed what had just happened. However, these people didn't make the slightest movement. They were obviously waiting to reap the benefits. Anyway, no matter if Lu Ming or Shuechuan died, it would be beneficial for them. However, at that moment, these people were astonished. Shuechuan was killed. I wouldn't have thought that Mu Yun's strength would be so terrifying. With the strength of the 1st godly emperor layer, he could kill Shuechuan, who had the strength of the 6th godly emperor layer. Even though he used a treasure, it's still terrifying. What terrifying strength! It seems that everyone has underestimated this person. With my strength, how could I have finished in the top 2? Thoughts rose in the hearts of these people. Some of them had serious expressions. Some shook their heads and sighed, and some revealed murderous intent. Lu Ming smiled coldly. If these people didn't provoke him, he would be fine. If they provoked him, they would be courting death. Lu Ming's silhouette flickered, and he went back to his room. Then he took out a demonic secret skill and started practicing it. He was now practicing ordinary secret skills very quickly. After a short period of time, he could successfully comprehend an ordinary secret skill and turn it into a talisman and integrate it into his cells. All kinds of demonic secret skills turned into talismans and integrated into Lu Ming's cells. Lu Ming gradually mastered more and more secret skills. That night, everything was peaceful. The next day it was still peaceful. Late at night, Lu Ming sensed that there was someone in the courtyard outside his door. "Who is it?" Lu Ming asked coldly. A ray of cold light flashed in his eyes. "Brother Mu Yun, it's me, Ming Yusheng." A clear and bright voice sounded. "It's him." Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Ming Yusheng was a top genius of the Moonlight Clan. You're tuning in to the Limei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.